Evening, everybody. It is a little before 9 o'clock Eastern here in New York City. Michelle and I are with you, as is the Mayday Network, to talk about Donald Trump's speech, where he will surely pathologically lie about election interference to say that he lost the 2020 election unfairly, that he will say he did not lose it, and that the election was stolen from him by choose your own adventure. Seems like potentially China is who he's blaming this on. Well, it remains to be seen. I do want to, before we start, Michelle, say a few words. You have come to the right place, folks, because we know election interference. Ogle Outman and I spent the better part of a year running a 20-part series about 2016 election interference by the Kremlin. There was a report that was issued by the intelligence community in early 2021 that said that, in fact, there were several countries that did attempt to interfere in the election. But before the president starts lying, I do want to talk about specifically what they said and what they didn't say. It is true that certain countries did attempt to interfere in the 2020 election, some on the side of the Biden campaign, some on the side of the Trump campaign, and that they were advocating for different outcomes. Iran interfered to try to defeat Donald Trump. Russia, of course, interfered again to try to elect Donald Trump. There is no evidence that China was involved at all. The best that the intelligence services have said on our end is that China potentially explored interfering and then realized the juice was not worth the squeeze and chose not to go ahead and do that. What I want to say here is that there is a big difference between election interference and actually changing votes. So despite the fact that, as I said, I wrote a book-length treatise on how Russia interfered in the 2016 election, there is no evidence, none, zero, that they were able to break into any voting machines or otherwise harvest any ballots to change votes from Hillary Clinton to Donald Trump. That did not happen. They did it through persuasion. They did it through taking over different elements of the Republican base. They did it by cooperating in some cases with the Trump campaign. There are still unanswered questions about exactly what Paul Manafort was up to and others, who was Trump's campaign manager at the time. But even I, who of course have written very extensively on this, I cannot say that Russia actually was able to change any votes. It did not break into any voting machines. There is no evidence that Iran did that in 2020 to defeat Donald Trump. There is no evidence, Michelle, that Russia did that to help Donald Trump in 2020. We do know that these countries, including the Chinese, have probed the machinery of campaigns to see what the vulnerabilities are. But because of how we run campaigns in this country and the diffuse nature in which we do that, it is almost impossible to do that unless you specifically want to target, if you physically get a hold of the machines or somehow put some sort of, viral code in there. There's no evidence that happened. Look, this is being done because the president is obsessed with not being portrayed as a loser. Retrospectively, it is also being done so that he can go ahead and try to pass the SAVE Act, which would effectively bring about a permanent Republican majority because it would prevent so many women from voting, including you, Michelle, unless you have your birth certificate handy, that, the odds of Republicans losing another election would be pretty slim. So he's doing this in order to steal the forthcoming elections. Specifically, he's focusing on Georgia because that's where he had the quote unquote perfect phone call. But at the same time, I also want to say that he is trying to take Jon Ossoff off the table in this election. And as you pointed out before, it is not a coincidence that he is going after the only Black man and the only Jewish man ever to have been elected statewide in Georgia. So with that, Michelle, what are we doing today? I just want to tell people what we are going to do today. because we would not otherwise have taken this live. And I wrote a Substack about this, that I don't think anybody should be taking this live. We are doing what the networks will not do. We are going to fact check him in real time. We are prepared with the facts. We are prepared with the background. Watch the Chiron as he is speaking. We are going to fact check his ass in real time. And I don't know that anybody who's taking this live is going to do that. That is the only reason we actually even suggest that anybody watch what is coming out of his lying mouth. And only if you watch us or somebody else who is going to fact check him in real time. Otherwise, please go watch Casablanca or
literally. I just pulled myself away from
anything.
watching. I just pulled myself away from watching a Nancy Meyers movie, so I cannot begin to tell you how much I don't want to watch this. But to your point, Julie, like the more people who do this, the better, right? Because this bitchy ass queen is going to be talking behind either a podium or his desk. Don't know which one. And to your point, he's going to lie. I mean, he's going to lie and lie and lie, and he's going to lie about the lies. And listen, if this is about President Xi or the Chinese, again, like he's constantly contradicting himself. He's been slobbering all over President Xi for God knows like years now. There was an exclusive at Axios just I think came out like a month or two ago, quoting him saying like how much he loves them and like relations with China have never been better and everything great and I love him. And I mean, and this is how he talks about these authoritarian leaders is oh, we fell in love, we wrote letters, oh, I love him, he's so handsome. This is how he talks to Putin. And the irony here is that his friend Vladimir Putin, as you and Olga have written extensively about, has done the most damage meddling in our elections in the last decade. It's you and I have talked privately about this too, Julie. When he was reelected, when he won the election in 2024, this is kind of one of the days that we saw coming. And so there's not really like a lot of shock. There's not a lot of surprise, but I'm still sort of in disbelief that we're here. Okay, hold on. He's coming. All right.
Before we begin, I'm proud to report that our country is safer, stronger, and far wealthier than it has ever been before. We are doing great. Less than 2 years ago, we inherited an economic and social disaster. After the worst inflation in 48 years, the wide open borders with millions and millions of people pouring in from all over the world, including criminals of all types, and 11,888 murders, many of whom killed more than one person. We had transgender for everybody, men and women's sports, crime ravaging our cities, and the whole world was laughing at us as a nation, but not anymore. 2 years ago, our country was dead. Now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world. America is respected like we have never been respected before. We have more money being invested in the United States than at any time in the history of our country. More Americans are working today than ever before. This week, it was announced that inflation saw the largest monthly decline in more than 6 years. Just happened. It was just given out. The media reported it, and we accept it. The best in 6 years. The tax cuts in our great, big, beautiful bill are saving hardworking families thousands and thousands of dollars, like with the provisions, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors, along with the interest deduction on a loan used to purchase a car, but only if that car is made in America, and a 100% expensing for our job-creating businesses. Our stock markets are at their highest point in many years, but we can actually say of all time. And your 401ks, pensions, and retirement accounts are setting records every single day, the highest in history. For years, we paid the highest price for prescription drugs anywhere in the world. Now we pay the lowest price under my most favored nations policy because I was able to get the rest of the world and the pharmaceutical companies to act responsibly. Drug prices are coming down by 70, 80, and 90%. TrumpRx.gov, this will ultimately reduce the cost of healthcare. You have to go to TrumpRx.gov and take advantage of it. But the cost of healthcare is coming way down because of what we've done with prescription drugs. And with Trump accounts, every child.
Damn it. Sorry.
And with Trump accounts, every child in America now has access to a tax-free investment account to save for their future. Billions and billions of dollars are being invested, put in by companies and individuals to take care of our children so that at age 18, they will have potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in their account, and they'll get off to a great start in life. So for that, go to trumpaccounts.gov and sign up your child or any child who'd like to sign up. Our previously wide open borders have been transformed into the most secure borders in the history of our country, with zero illegal aliens being admitted to the United States in the past 14 months. That is zero. Nobody thought it was possible. We had the worst border in the history of our country, and now we have the best. Crime is plummeting nationwide, with the murder rate at its lowest level since 1900, or more than 125 years ago. We're making a record investment in our armed forces, and we have the strongest and most powerful military by far anywhere in the world. I built it during my first term, and unfortunately, we're forced to use it now. We won in Venezuela, which is now working with us to produce millions and millions of barrels of oil. We are likewise winning big in Iran, and you will see the fruits of that labor very, very shortly. America is back and doing really well, but we still have a major challenge that must be urgently addressed, because no country can be great without fair and honest elections. You have to trust your country, because if there can be no trust, there can be no greatness. And that's very simple. No trust, no greatness. For many years, I've called for bold, swift, and decisive action to protect the integrity of America's election. Everyone deserves that when they cast their vote, that vote be counted accurately in a system that is to make that system secure, one where cheating and interference are not just difficult, but virtually impossible. Unfortunately, the system we have today falls catastrophically short of that standard. Tonight, I'm announcing the immediate declassification and release of critical intelligence revealing shocking vulnerabilities in our election infrastructure. This evidence shows that the election system we have dangerously exposes, and really exposes like levels never thought possible, to hacking, exploitation, and foreign interference. Just as disturbingly, this vital information has for many years been covered up and hidden from you, the American people, our beautiful, our great American people. But that all changes right now. The documents we will release starting tonight have been gathered by the White House Government Transparency Task Force, a great group of people, along with the staff of the President's Intelligence Advisory Board, supported by our top intelligence agency chiefs, who have all personally reviewed the findings. We are presenting this evening and fully confirmed their authenticity. You can see these documents for yourself at whitehouse.gov. That's whitehouse.gov. china.gov. Go check it out. Our purpose in disclosing this information is not to weaken confidence in election, but to earn that confidence by confronting vulnerabilities and correcting them very, very quickly. And that's what we're doing. The documents cover 5 major areas of concern. First, they show that over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. Information includes names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities, which is exactly what was happening. This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. The intelligence even shows that China assigned a data exploitation unit specifically to this new project. Compounding the travesty, the second set of documents we are releasing reveals that members of the deep state, very, very famous group of people, in many cases, in our intelligence agency work to actively suppress and downplay information about the extent of China's sinister election meddling, covering it up from both the president and the American people like nobody thought was possible. U.S. spy agencies began learning about the compromise of voter registration files in 2020 when they discovered that tens of millions of voter data, think of that, tens of millions of voters' data in 18 states have been bought, stolen, or hacked by China. Yet those responsible for sounding the alarm instead kept the information secret and hidden. They did not disclose to me as president or to anyone else, and to the best of our knowledge, they did not inform Congress. In fact, all they kept saying is, this is the most secure election in the history of our country, a standard, very pat line that was divvied out to say. The cover-up of this colossal security breach is even more disturbing in light of the additional information showing that China engaged in other election-related activities to undermine my first administration and our 2020 campaign. They did not want, and they just didn't want it. They fought like hell not to have it, Donald Trump, to win, and for good reason. As the documents we are releasing show, CIA reporting explicitly stated, and I quote, in mid-2018, the Chinese Communist Party's policy was to leverage all domestic and foreign elements that were opposed to the U.S. president in an effort to reduce the U.S. president's votes and make him resign or prevent his reelection. Isn't that nice? Also, in mid-2018, China was working to influence the results of the U.S. midterm elections and later the results of the 2020 presidential election itself. Separately, in mid-2019, the Chinese government's strategy against the United States was focused on undermining domestic confidence in the U.S. president. They wanted to just make you sound like your president wasn't so hot, when actually your president has done a great job, and they did everything possible to do exactly that. Going on, this document says, and this is by the CIA, the strategy included efforts to use Chinese contacts with big U.S. companies to influence U.S. business leaders to turn against the President of the United States of America. The Chinese government sought to identify U.S. journalists who had reported negatively on the U.S. president and pay them large sums of money to write more negative articles about him, as many as they could, and they didn't care what they said. The Chinese government wanted U.S. president to lose the next election, and the reason they wanted me to lose is because they knew I was wise to them, charged them billions and billions of dollars worth of tariffs, and built the strongest military anywhere in the world. We have the strongest military anywhere in the world. These are exact quotes from the CIA reporting, the name of the person doing the quote is now under review, but it gets even worse. Raw intelligence obtained by the FBI in 2020, yet buried by rogue bureaucrats, stated that China's activities even included an attempt to manufacture illegal ballots for Joe Biden. Documents show that during this period, dozens of significant CIA and NSA reports about China's election targeting were kept out of the presidential briefing. These were briefings I would get almost every day. Everything was kept out that was of importance. One email among intelligence analysts admitted that they had, quote, deliberately massaged the presidential daily briefing to withhold information regarding Chinese activities related to the election. Another official inside the FBI wrote that she was running, quote, a shadow government, unquote, to keep intelligence about China's election meddling from becoming known and to keep it away from the honorable press. Other officials who witnessed such efforts perceived the motivations to be blatantly political. Recently, we found significant numbers of burn bags in formation, and this is a group of bags that were used to destroy information given by President Barack Hussein Obama to be burned. It was supposed to be burned. These bags were supposed to be at a different level by different people, incinerated and checked, but it never happened. Maybe we got lucky. We believe this was not done on purpose, but rather through gross incompetence of the people that were supposed to burn the bags. But the findings are stunning. Today, I'm asking the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the CIA to investigate how and why such crucial information was hidden, to fire those involved in the cover-up, and to file criminal charges, if appropriate, against these people. Yet concealing China's meddling was only the beginning. The third set of documents we are releasing proves that for many years, Americans were blatantly lied to about the security of our election infrastructure, including electronic voting machines and ballot counting systems, dishonest, almost all. They're vulnerable and they're easily compromised, and people within our government knew that. Tonight, we're publishing a series of previously classified U.S. intelligence community assessments and other reports proving that our government has long known these machines are extremely exposed to attack. As one assessment states, we judge that the United States adversaries, including at a minimum Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, as well as non-state groups, have the capability to compromise U.S. election infrastructure. That's unquote, but that's some statement, isn't it? Made by supposedly great patriots of our country. The document goes on to further state that, quote, we assess that centralized election-related data repositories, such as voter registration databases, poll books, and other official election websites, are most vulnerable to exploitation, and adversaries could use this access to these systems to disrupt election processes within the United States of America. Tonight, we're releasing all of those findings, and spanning from January 2020 to June 2026. This is a cyber threat at the very heart of our democracy. Many people have questioned whether it could actually be possible to electronically manipulate vote totals or change election results on these terrible machines. Today, we are releasing documents that show the CIA obtained reporting of a specific plot to do a big number in favor of the corrupt Maduro regime in Venezuela. And that's exactly what happened, conspiring to digitally rig their own country's elections in 2020, and that's what they did. This reporting included precise details about methods to regime develop to digitally alter vote totals in ways that could not be detected even with an audit, no matter how deep they went. This intelligence underscores why we must take urgent action to ensure that our own system can never, ever be hacked or compromised like it was in the past. The fourth set of documents reveals that even when significant evidence of fraud has been detected, it has been buried and covered up. Among the disclosures tonight are FBI files detailing evidence of alleged fraud by a large-scale voter registration operation in Michigan. In 2020, Michigan State Police raided a Democrat Get Out the Vote organization, corrupt group in Muskegon. And we're so concerned by what they found. They were just so concerned. They couldn't believe it, actually, that they contacted the FBI in Detroit. The documents state that some canvassers admitted to FBI agents that they signed voter registration forms in other people's names, submitted fraudulent registration for people who did not exist, and received gift cards tied to their number of applications that they produced. In other words, it was pay, play, and cheat. The FBI agents working on the case believe that crimes were committed, yet the Biden Department of Justice slow-walked the investigation and killed it. Tonight, I'm asking the FBI director to ensure that the matter is fully investigated and to work with the Department of Justice to prosecute those responsible for any crimes. Finally, to reveal just how vulnerable our elections continue to be, we are releasing the results of a stunning investigation by the Department of Homeland Security. According to the DHS review, state voter rolls and public records, they identified approximately 278,000 non-citizens who are registered to vote in federal elections. Since Democrat states refuse to share their voter files, the real number is actually much higher than that. Yet, even this limited analysis found 250,000 foreigners illegally registered to vote. Put together, these disclosures reveal an election system so broken and so vulnerable that no one can possibly defend it. It is not defensible. Hundreds of millions of U.S. voter files are in the hands of foreign governments. Our machines and ballot counting systems are exposed to hacking and manipulation and corruption. China and other countries have been trying to meddle in our elections. Evidence of fraud has been buried. Hundreds of thousands of non-citizens and dead people are listed and active on the voter rolls. And yet we still have elections with no voter ID, no proof of citizenship, and tens of millions of ballots floating aimlessly through the mail. As one example of the insanity, California's recent election for mayor of LA and governor was held on June 2nd, a long time ago, but it was just completed a few days ago on July 10th. Think of that, much more than 1 month. Took a month to count the votes. I wonder what they were doing. This is worse than any third world country. There's no third world country that has elections like we have. In a rare move, NBC and ABC Fake News have both said that they would not cover this speech. They knew what it was about because of the fact that they don't like the topic, because they know how corrupt our system is and they don't want to reveal it. They and others in the media are part of a plot. They want to continue this fraud for whatever reason. They want to keep it going. They want to protect the radical left. They can't have a great country, and that's true. You can't have a great country without free and fair elections. Fraud like this should mean a revocation of their licenses. They use our public multi-billion-dollar in value airways for absolutely no money. They pay nothing. All we want is honesty in our elections and honesty in reporting. They pay nothing for multi-billion-dollar assets. Great damage has been done to our country. Our elections were left vulnerable to being rigged and stolen, and the trust of the American people was lost. This cannot be allowed to continue. Every American, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, or otherwise, should be able to agree that we deserve the most secure, honest, and fair election system anywhere in the world. Secure elections should be a partisan, we should be together, Democrats, Republicans, independents. It should not be a partisan issue. It should cause unite us, not to divide us. This should be a cause. We should be united, not divided. In light of the brand new and irrefutable information I have revealed tonight, my administration is in the process of notifying the states whose election data was compromised by the People's Republic of China and many others. We will be working closely to mitigate any harm, and we're taking swift action to ensure that sensitive voter data is better protected so we can never be bought, we can never be hacked, and we can never watch a stolen election again. Tomorrow, the Secretary of Homeland Security will hold a briefing to outline his department's recent work confirming cyber vulnerabilities in our electronic voting systems. They are bad. We're in the process of informing governors, senators, and members of Congress of potential issues in their states. If you look at voting today, it's in such bad shape in so many states, and we are committing to fix it. And we're also committing to be working with those states and local jurisdictions to help them fix and patch known technical vulnerabilities before the midterm elections. We have very important elections coming up. We want those elections to be honest. I've also ordered DHS to notify every state about non-citizens on their voter rolls and direct them to remove all ineligible voters from the lists immediately. But most importantly, addressing this crisis of election security demands that Congress must pass the Save America Act. How easy is that to do unless you want to cheat? The only reason you wouldn't do it is you want to cheat because your policies are so bad and your candidates are so pathetic that you can't get away or can't get elected any other way. This landmark bill requires that all voters must show photo voter ID. How simple is that? Could I have your photo, please? Photo voter ID. All voters must provide proof of citizenship. Are you a citizen of our country, please? And hopefully there will be no corrupt mail-in ballots, which if you watched California and so many other places, mail-in ballots are inherently corrupt. So you would have no mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military deployment, or travel if you're going away on business or vacation. These reforms are urgently needed to stop the vulnerabilities that I've mentioned. To all Americans, I ask you to pick up your phone tomorrow, call your representatives in the House and Senate, and demand that they pass the Save America Act without delay. Together, we will restore faith and confidence in our country, and we will be bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. Thank you. God bless you. God bless our great military, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
Well, friends, I am, if you're still here with us, and I don't blame you if you wanted to turn that off because that was a complete shit show. And I applaud ABC and I applaud NBC for not running what is effectively a Trump campaign rally with even more lying, even more bullshit, even more misinformation. And if I were the very people that he claims he wants to protect this country against, the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, and others who have tried to interfere in our elections, I would say that I would be sending the President of the United States a big bottle of champagne tomorrow, Michelle, for reasons that we can talk about in a minute. I just want to talk about what this is all about before we fact check more. I was fact checking and typing as quickly as I could in real time, and we can certainly talk more about that now that he stopped lying. But I do want to say this. couple of things here. One is clearly that was an effort to pressure Republicans to pass the Save America Act. We can talk about why that is one of the worst pieces of legislation that has been introduced in our lifetime. And we'll get to that in a minute. One was an ability to signal to the FCC and to his flunkies at the FCC that they should strip ABC and NBC of their licenses, their broadcast licenses. And I'm sure that they will hop to that, at least with ABC. They've been threatening to do that for a while. And they're probably going to do what they can to make sure that they will try to strip ABC and NBC from this, because now ABC and NBC are not just not giving the president what they want. He's accusing them of basically being in cahoots with our foreign adversaries who want to steal American elections. I mean, just to show you exactly how crazy he is.
Treason.
Yeah, he's accusing them of treason. And finally, well, not finally, because there's so much of this. Of course, the Maduro thing was priceless, and I think we all saw that one coming. Nicolas Maduro and his wife are currently sitting at the Metropolitan Correctional Facility here in New York City under really awful conditions. They have been indicted for drug trafficking. There'll probably be superseding indictments accusing them of much more down the road. And of course, if you're Maduro and you want to get the hell out of there, the fastest way to do that is to give the president what he wants, which is to say, yes, indeed, we did interfere in the election. It would also have the added benefit potentially of, I don't know, if Dominion, which is now owned by a Trumper, would want to then refund Fox News of its $1 billion, Rupert Murdoch of its $1 billion for the libel that lawsuit that they paid him. I don't know. But look, it's interesting that Fox barely advertised. They ran it, but they barely advertised anything today because they did not want to be sued for another $1 billion. I think you have to refresh Michelle, but I'll keep Michelle. We'll be back in a minute, but I'll keep talking. I want to go through what the President of the United States said about protecting our elections. And then I want to talk about what the President of the United States has done since returning to office in order to do everything possible to make our elections less secure. Since returning to the White House, Donald Trump has systematically weakened the very federal defenses created to detect and combat foreign interference in American elections. I don't think this should be left unsaid. And I'm going to go very briefly through what he's done to do that. On the very first day in office, then Attorney General Pam Bondi ordered the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force to disband. That task force had been established after Russia's 2016 attack to identify and disrupt covert operations by Russia, China, Iran, and other foreign adversaries. Whom did Trump just mention as interfering in our elections? Russia, China, Iran, and other foreign adversaries. And yet the very office that had been established to identify and disrupt those covert operations was disbanded by his attorney general on her very first day on the job. Her directive also narrowed the circumstances in which prosecutors should bring cases under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA, restricting them largely to conduct resembling traditional espionage. None of this. Now, if you want to know who's spending billions of dollars influencing election outcomes on the right and the left, it is Russia, China, Qatar, the UAE, Iran, and many, many, many others. And in fact, for all of you who sit there and think, again, that cerulean blue Banana Republic sweater that you got was something that you decided to get on your own, as we always said from Devil Wears Prada, that was identified for you by Russia, China, Iran, or whoever, and ended up in your algorithm, which is why you're protesting some genocides, but for instance, not the UAE-led genocide in the Sudan right now, just so you know. or the Russia-led genocide in Ukraine right now, and so on. Just understand, this is because Donald Trump decided to narrow the circumstances in which prosecutors could bring cases under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. I want to just continue here, Michelle, just very briefly. Trump's Department of Homeland Security simultaneously began hollowing out the election security work of the Cyber Security and Infrastructure Security Agency. Employees who worked on misinformation, disinformation, and foreign influence threats were placed on administrative leave or removed. They altogether paused election security activities on which state and local officials had come to rely. They stopped and they ended federal funding for the Election Infrastructure Information Sharing and Analysis Center, which allowed election administrators around the country to exchange warnings about cyber attacks, physical threats, and vulnerabilities in voting infrastructure. Again, that was created during Trump's first term in response to the Russian election interference of 2016. Trump got rid of it this time around. The Justice Department, we're not the only, and CISA, we're not the only agencies ordered to retreat. Marco Rubio, in April of last year, closed the State Department's Counter Foreign Information Manipulation Interference Office, which monitored and exposed propaganda and disinformation campaigns conducted by hostile foreign powers. He said, and our friend Nina Jankowicz could speak to this better than anybody, that, again, he portrayed the office as a domestic censorship operation, even though its mandate included tracking Russian, Chinese, and Iranian influence campaigns abroad and helping allies recognize coordinated foreign propaganda. And then, they scaled back or suspended part of the governor's effort to counter Russian covert action, including work coordinated through the National Security Council to respond to Russian cyber attacks, sabotage, and influence operations. And at the same time, election officials reported losing access to federal threat briefings, cyber assistance, and rapid coordination systems that had helped authorities respond to the 2024 election, during the 2024 election, to Russian-generated fake videos, foreign hacking attempts, and bomb threats against polling locations. Rather than strengthening those capabilities, friends, the Trump administration placed personnel on leave, terminated programs, and redirected agencies away from the foreign governments that have actually attacked American democracy. Now I ask you this, Michelle Kinney. Based on everything I just said right now, is this a man who gives a rat's ass about election security?
No, obviously. I mean, Donald Trump cares about one thing and one thing only. That is himself. If he thinks that there's any chance whatsoever that there is going to be different leadership in the Senate and the House come January of next year, who would be holding him accountable not only for all the things he's done in the past, plus Epstein files, everything else, but the crimes that he has committed in the last year and a half. War crimes, financial crimes, racketeering, corruption, abuse of power, obstruction of justice. I mean, who knows? Treason? Like, who knows? And here's the other thing. He always is projecting. Whatever he accuses his political enemy of is what he is doing himself. And this goes back to, and I can't help but think, QAnon, right? What were the lies of QAnon? Is that there was a pedophile ring of all these Democrats, eating babies and like doing whatever else, right? And then it turns out that there was some truth to that, and it was all manufactured by outside forces in order to turn everyone's, head and attention in the opposite direction. And so when he's sitting here telling you, Democrats, they just want to cheat. They just want to cheat. He's talking about himself. This man has done nothing but cheat his whole life. He cheats on his wives. He cheats at golf. He cheats on his finances. He cheats on his taxes. He cheats on everything. And especially when he sits there behind the podium holding on, by the way, for dear life. And he's like, anytime he does that voice and that face, he is extra full of shit. And I just want everyone to really just wrap your head around what just happened. He does these speeches and he lies constantly. And, if every day is Watergate, there are no Watergates, right? And he's flooding the zone constantly, especially in the last year and a half in this term. But we just watched an American president address the nation, accusing his political opponents of treason, of election interference, of stealing an election, when we all know that it's not true. An American president just did this. And while it may feel like, this, bitchy ass queen, lying to the American people, just like he always does, because, his ridiculousness is all baked in. Trump is Trump. The significance of what just happened cannot be ignored, because they are constantly setting the stage for what is to come next. And we all have to pay attention, because I think about the executive order saying that all people basically on the left are Antifa and are terrorists. I mean, the way that they define us is how they will prosecute us and punish us. And somebody Rosie just wrote in the chat, she's absolutely right. The world is watching.
And we're so sorry to our friends around the world that this is what the United States has become. It wasn't done through a coup. It was done by the willing hand of the American electorate. So,
all right. I just want to say just really quick. I went to an event in New York. This was in October of 2023. It was called like the Stop Trump Summit or something. It was in New York, downtown somewhere. And there was a lot of Ruth Ben-Ghiat was on stage, and she was on a panel and she was speaking, and she was talking about Pinochet, right? And how not all coups are quick and violent. Some of them are slow and are creating the conditions over years for the public to allow it to just happen. And that's kind of what this feels like too. Like we have given up as a country, that we are so conditioned and we are so numb to the constant barrage of bad news and suffering, that, when the conditions are right? I mean, somebody opens the door and these people just walk right through. And, as we look forward to November, like, I mean, I don't want to be dramatic. I don't want to, speculate as to what will happen, but I mean, I'm nervous. I'm nervous about all kinds of funny business and ICE at polling places, American military. I mean, at this point, I mean, I don't know, Julie. I just, I don't want to lose hope, and I don't want to lose, I don't want people to lose, willingness to stay in the fight. But like, there's a nice, like this, I'm like, is this seriously what we're up against? Like, there is nothing that will stop this man. Nothing.
well, what could stop him tomorrow, or should have stopped him after January 6th, was Mitch McConnell and the Republicans. But of course, that didn't happen. I do want to talk about, for people who have not heard us talk about this before, and I see our friend Nina Jankowicz join us on Substack. Hi, Nina. It is Nina. Great to have you here. Nina Jankowicz, who knows more about disinformation campaigns than anybody else on earth. And we should have her on very soon to talk to us.
Please go subscribe to her Substack.
Yes, please do. But also, I want to just talk about the Save America Act and what it does. Just so you know, it was called previously the Make American Elections Great Again Act.
I can't. Like, just I can't. So dumb.
So first of all, it would require American citizens to show documents like a passport or birth certificate to register to vote. 21 million Americans lack ready access to those documents. Half of Americans don't have a passport. Millions lack access to a paper copy of their birth certificate. It would disenfranchise Americans across the board, but younger voters and voters of color would suffer disproportionately. Friends, who do younger voters and voters of color disproportionately vote for, you might ask? And well, women. Michelle, let's think about that. No Democrat has won the White House with a majority of the white vote since Lyndon Johnson in 1964.
Yep.
Just so you know who the backbone is of the Democratic Party, it is not white people. That's not the backbone of the party. Millions of women whose married names aren't on their birth certificates or passport would face extra steps just to, be able to vote. Now, I guess you'd have to go down to City Hall and get your birth certificate and then get your marriage license to show that
is an ordeal. I mean, how is this not a poll tax? It is. At face value, that's exactly what this is. And the thing is, like, it'll be challenged. I mean, let's just say, worst case scenario, it passes. I don't know that it will unless they kill the filibuster, but like, let's just say it does. It'll be challenged in court, right? I don't trust this Supreme Court, to protect the American voters.
Well, I'll tell you this. First of all, it's a huge unfunded mandate because who administers our elections? State and local people, not the federal government. Second, it's those local officials really who have to decide whether you, Michelle Kinney, have the right to vote under your married name because your married name and voter registration may not correspond to your birth name. I don't know if in your case specifically, but I
Yeah,
I
I
didn't change my
name is different.
Yeah, I didn't change my last name, so I know it's not me, but I think you did, right?
I did.
And
Hyphened.
yeah. And if you make an honest mistake as a local official, you could face criminal and civil penalties. So now you have to worry about getting sued. You could be criminally prosecuted for registering an American citizen to vote because you failed to collect all the right paperwork, right, at the right time. And it just goes on and on and on.
Well, I think also, there's a political force behind this, obviously, and like a selfish force of Donald Trump trying to save his own ass, which is, behind everything that he does. However, on the other side of this is a religious and ideological and extremist force. And anybody who spends any time on the right listening to what these podcast guys on the right, I'm talking Nick Fuentes, Benny Johnson, I forget, Joel Webbin, like all these extremists talk about is repealing the 19th Amendment. And they blame all the progress that they think is, bad for America, bad for the world, it goes against God and blah, 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 whatever their religion is women's fault. Women's progress has destroyed the country, has destroyed the family. And why not just take it one fell swoop and just get rid of the right to vote for all women? I mean, a huge thing that they talk about is, well, there should be one vote for one family. And these women should just entrust the man who loves them in their household, whether it's their father or their brother or their husband, and they can go vote for them. And there'll be one vote per family. And this is something they seriously talk about. And they get women to talk about it and agree with them. This is all part of it too. And I think that, to look at this through a lens of extremist terrorist groups outside the United States, like the way that we look at Al-Qaeda or ISIS and things like that, the level of extremism that these people, conduct themselves with. There's a reason why, people have referred to the Tea Party and others as an American Taliban, because the extremism here goes beyond just power and politics here. There is an ideology and there is a religious element that stems from Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation. And they have, in order to get the rest of their agenda through, they can't have any of us voting either.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is a retrospective effort to not be portrayed as a loser, a retrospective effort to discredit Jack Smith's work, a retrospective effort to justify January 6th as a fight for our democracy and not the coup that it was trying to be.
They had Doug Mastriano in over at the Capitol, I think today, right? Testifying about this man was part of January 6th insurrection, and again, giving him a platform to discuss, his grievances. Let me ask you this, Julie, from a political perspective, because I saw a report in the Daily Beast this morning that Republicans quietly behind closed doors were freaking out about this speech tonight because they're like, oh my God, I can't believe he's going to do this because all these
Fox
people
has moved on, apparently. Sean Hannity has moved right on already.
Of course. But
Yeah.
do you think that this speech could backfire and hurt Donald Trump?
It depends how long he's gonna, look, he can amplify this all he wants. The question is how many of these Republicans are going to keep crossing him, right? Like they're
Right.
about to, Tom Tillis, who's got nothing to lose at this point, John Cornyn, who's got nothing to lose at this point. They're both on judiciary. They don't have to vote to make Todd Blanche Attorney General. Just one would sink his nomination.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds to me like they're going to come up with a reason to support him.
Of course.
And, is that the trade-off for not voting for the Save America Act? Like, when you give people 10 bad options and tell them to choose 9, but you get a pass for one of them.
Right.
It's kind of a really smart thing to do.
Does.
Yeah. I mean,
they'll sue you for $1 billion and be like, okay, let's settle for $5 million. And they're like, oh,
yeah.
okay.
And then thank you so much for allowing me to settle with you for,
so
500 million. I do want to say, as much as he talked about how China interfered in our election in 2020, last month, presumably when he would have already known all of this, in a June 2026 Axios interview, Donald Trump was asked which world leader he respected.
Yeah.
Trump singled out Xi as one of the world's greatest leaders. He called him, quote, very smart, all business, and a man of great stature. And then I also want to say other things that he said in May of 26, presumably when he already knew all of this. He called him a leader of extraordinary distinction. When he traveled to China, he told Xi, and I quote, I have such respect for China, the job you've done. You're a great leader. I say to everybody, you're a great leader. He called Xi a smart guy and a friend. So if you think, my friends, that Donald Trump really thought that Xi Jinping was trying to stab him in the back and overthrow American democracy, I know what I would say to Vladimir Putin, who did try to do that in 2016. I wouldn't be calling him a leader of, a very good leader, a great leader of a great country. I wouldn't say that I would have, as Trump said about Xi in October of last year, that he and Xi would have a fantastic, quote, fantastic relationship for a long period of time, and said that it was an honor to meet with him. These are not things that I would be saying to Vladimir Putin, who interfered in the 2016 election.
No.
So if you think that Donald Trump, for one fucking second, truly believes that China tried to overthrow American democracy, it's not that China didn't try to probe, but it's not that China didn't do what the Chinese do. The Chinese spend more money actually on foreign influence operations in the United States than any other country. As much as everybody is like APAC, not even in the top 5.
Yeah, no, not even
close.
You want to talk about people taking money from the China, anyways.
Yeah. The whole thing to me is just so fascinating because it is a complete and utter charade. So we talked about retrospectively what he was doing. Prospectively, what he is doing is, of course, the Save America Act, which would create a permanent Trumpist majority for all time. And maybe the Republicans will go along with it. Who the hell knows? Susan Collins actually said she would, just in case people think that Susan Collins is like, a moderate Republican.
God, she
sucks. That he's trying to obviously strip the FCC have the FCC strip Disney, ABC, and NBC of their licenses, and using this as a pretext, calling them treasonous. Mm-hmm. And he's trying to, I'm surprised he didn't go down the road of accusing Raphael Warnock or John Ossoff of getting elected illegally in 2020.
My guess
That's coming next.
Is he wanted to? Yeah, he probably wanted to. If I was a betting woman, I would say that probably Susie Wiles was like, you can't do that. Like, that's a step too far. That's where people aren't going to believe you. If you just keep it here with like, we have documents and go to the thing, like people will believe you. But once you start getting into the Warnock and Ossoff thing, then it's going to get worse.
I don't agree actually, because I don't think Susie
Really?
Wiles ever tells him what to not say. Like, I just think she lets him Trump be Trump, and I think all of them let him be Trump.
I think, well,
I
think most of the time she does, but I think that, just based on
I don't
things
know.
I've read, I don't know. I think that she has some sway, probably more so than anybody, but I think also the reaction, right, when that was leaked, was it yesterday, the day before, there was outrage, right? And there was swift response from John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. Maybe
Right. And of course,
with
I'm
it.
sorry, Trump's the big line here. Today, I'm asking the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, who right now, while Jay Clayton, who, by the way, at the hearing today would not confirm that the 2020 election was not stolen, and that Trump would not say who won the 2020 election when John Ossoff asked him. So right now, the acting DNI is Bill Pulte, who's also running Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
That guy.
So yeah, some builder developer guy who's a huge Trumper. So that is who Trump is now asking. Now he's making this a lot harder for his new DNI to come in with this. But today I'm asking the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the DOJ, the FBI, and the CIA to investigate how and why such crucial information was hidden, to fire those involved in the cover-up, and to file criminal charges if necessary. It is not lost on me that he was president in 2020 when he claims the election was stolen.
Right.
And the person who was his DNI at the time was a man named John Ratcliffe. And you might be surprised to learn, folks, that John Ratcliffe today is the director of the CIA. So is he accusing his own director of the CIA from keeping things from him? He said it didn't make it into the president's daily brief. That would be his president's daily brief. And the person who would be compiling that president's daily brief is the DNI. And the DNI at the time was the man who is now the director of the CIA. So we
and
report
this is
as
where the
Fox
White House
News.
press poll needs to do their job. They need to do their job.
Yeah.
The press poll and ask
right.
that question.
Right. Fox News, hilariously, their line right now is Fox News has not seen the evidence yet and is not in a position to evaluate the accuracy of the president's statement and claims. That is what losing $1 billion, not almost, that is what losing nearly $1 billion in a legal fee filing by going down the president's crazy wackadoodle conspiracy theories gets you. It gets you for once in your life not to go down crazy rabbit holes. And all the years that I ever worked at Fox and all the years that I have known about Fox News since, I've never seen them actually act with any kind of journalistic responsibility here. So friends at Dominion, who no longer own Dominion, congratulations, you got Fox News to do the right thing by hitting Murdoch where it hurts in the pocketbook.
Money talks or
money talks.
Not. Yeah.
So, look, I think what we're dealing with is just crazy train. I mean, crazy, and the emperor has no clothes. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, they're all going to go down this rabbit hole with the president because it doesn't matter. They're so terrified of him that that's what they do. I have to give CNN credit. Caitlin Collins said, "We'll be monitoring what the president says tonight, as we always do, but aren't taking it live, given the president has a well-documented history of saying blatantly false things about elections." Okay. There you go.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something, I guess.
Yes. Donald Trump and the Republicans are going to lose their election this November for one reason and one reason only. He is loathed by the vast majority of American voters. Right now, his approval ratings are in the 30s. When you have approval ratings like that, you tend to lose in a tsunami.
Mhm.
And that is not because China is going to interfere to deliver it for the Democrats. It is not because Nicolas Maduro
Well,
from
that's what he's trying to set up, right?
from prison or somewhere else is trying to mastermind the infiltration of our voting machines. It is because
Mhm.
Donald Trump has been an absolute abject failure as president, because if he spent as much time focusing on, oh, I don't know, bringing down the price of gas or making food inflation not suck as much or having people be able to afford their health care rather than
Or
making
like not
subsidies
die
for
of
them.
diarrhea salad. Like, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like,
If he focused just as much time on that as he did on his obsession, which is that he lost the 2020 election, maybe his numbers wouldn't be so shitty. So
yeah,
there you
no
go.
pun intended.
Yeah.
And also, you know, it's talk to people in your lives about this, because you know what? People might not even know that he spoke tonight. And I think the more we have conversations with each other about these things, our neighbors, our families, our friends, um, I think awareness and our sense of community here, we have more in common than we think. And most people, decent people in this country, don't want this. And just double check your voter registration. Make sure that you have not been purged from any voter rolls. Continue to check. Make sure you're registered to vote this November, because we are what stands between him and everything else, you know? So it has to be a blowout. It has to
Yeah,
be.
it does. And before we go, just the funniest part of all of this is that the evidence that Trump says that he has, the new evidence that the 2020 election was rigged, is that a lot of people wrote, and I quote, negative articles about him.
Mhm. Well, yeah, yeah. And
Right.
broke into address the nation. Address the nation with that line. And someone, Brett Campbell in the chat just said too, you know, don't forget he obsesses about his ballroom too. Like, I saw someone say that Donald Trump would have made a great first lady, because all he wants to do is like beautification projects and building things and, you know, sticking gold stickers on things. He doesn't care about anything else. That is literally all he wants to do. He doesn't give a shit about if you're suffering, if I'm suffering, if people are dying from salad diarrhea. Like, he doesn't care. And you know, and I think it's also worth mentioning that the people around him, including his little girlfriend, whatever her name is, the little blonde who leaves him love notes, um, they only share positive information with him because no one wants to be on the receiving end of his wrath. So, you know, even when they show him CNN polls, you know, like Harry Enton or whatever, like they'll show him the one poll that he reports on that's like, oh, you know, he has 90% you know, approval among MAGA voters. And they'll give that to him. And then he'll go on Truth Social. I love that Harry Enton from CNN. He gives me great numbers. Because like no one's telling him anything else. So, you know, this is what we're dealing with a man who has dementia and a myriad of other health issues and is dying before our eyes. I mean, that's the other piece of this that's just nuts, is the health on top of it. The man is disintegrating.
Yeah. Okay, friends, it is 10 p.m. here on the East Coast, and I think we've given this orange jerk more time than he deserves.
Orange Caligula,
Orange Caligula.
mango Mussolini.
Yes.
Heidi I know Heidi's in Toronto. She's asking, what's this diarrhea thing? Well, because in America, we don't really have food safety anymore. That's why we've got like screwworm and our beef cattle, and all that stuff. Apparently, there's some farms or food distributors that were like growing crops of vegetables and fruits and using wastewater to water them. And so those contaminated fruits and vegetables made their way into grocery stores and Taco Bell and all these other places. And people got a parasite that gave them explosive diarrhea for months at a time. So and I'm proud to be an American.
Yeah, exactly. And apparently Taco Bell is having some problems here. So
Yeah, I mean, Taco, like, I wasn't joking. Like, Taco Bell for real, you know?
yeah.
And as we're wheezing from Legionnaire's disease, pneumonia, going outside and hacking up a lung from from the smoke from the forest fires, and then, explosive salad diarrhea. It's really a great time. You can't help but laugh, Julie. You can't help but laugh.
Okay. All right. Great to see everybody. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for holding your noses and listening to that bullshit-a-thon for the last hour. We are so grateful to the Mayday family. You guys are really amazing. Nothing shows us how amazing you are than the fact that you're willing to suffer through listening to that bullshit speech so we could all do it together as a community. So thanks, everybody. Okay. A long time no hear that tune. Marie.
And to Shell-Anna, yes, we will be on tomorrow at 11 with Jeff Jarvis. So we'll be back.
Yes, we are pre-taping of those. So if you guys are in the chat and we're not responding, that's why I have something I have to do. So we're going to tape it a little early. That's very nice, Miss Banks. That's very nice. Thank you. Okay. All right, everybody. See you, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Sleep well.
Bye.
Sweet.